2022, Executive Council, Council Chamber, State House, Boston, Mass. Dear Councilors, I am pleased to nominate the following person for the position of Circuit Justice of the District Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The nominee is Joseph P. Hurley III of Braintree, Massachusetts, to the position of Circuit Justice of the District Court, which position was authorized by Chapter 206 of the Acts of 1988. I am closing the nominee resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth. Before we start, Joe, would you want to introduce the people here who we have?
Absolutely, thank you. Speaking on my behalf is Mary Hickey, Attorney Mary Hickey. She's the first assistant clerk of Norfolk Superior Court. And with her also speaking on my behalf is the Honorable Thomas A. Connors, retired Associate Justice of the Superior Court and former Justice of the District Court. And here in support of my nomination is my boss, the elected clerk, of course, for Norfolk County, Clerk Oliver Timothy. And of course, also with me is my wife, Atty. Hurley. Thank you.
You better have.
Yes. I'm glad you noticed.
So we'll call on, Mary Hickey, Norfolk Superior Court First Assistant Clerk, and an expert on everything in the clerk's office.
Expert on
Every clerk in the Commonwealth calls Mary Hickey.
That's very nice of you to say.
It's true.
Well, I've been here a long time, and that, before I even start my comments about Joe, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of you. I'm a career clerk by so many years, we don't like to tell because it tells me age. What you people do, and the people that you put on the bench, has enriched my career as a clerk. So thank you for taking it serious and doing diligence. So if I can now, and I'm pretty excited, so I'm going to have something written rather than just talk from the heart, which I usually do. But thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the nomination of my good friend, valued member of my work family, and truly a very decent person, Joseph P. Hurley III. I feel honored to speak today on behalf, in essence, I feel like I'm speaking on behalf of all the people at Norfolk Superior Court, because Joe is beloved, it's true. I also like to thank Clerk Timothy for allowing me this honor. I appreciate that. Technically, I'm Joe's supervisor, but I've never need to supervise a person. He's got a great work ethic. He's a strong professional strength. And I don't need to do anything. He does his work. And he does it superstar. I met Joe 23 years ago when Clerk Jubinville asked me to join him in interviewing for the position of an assistant clerk. There was a large pool of qualified individuals. Joe was chosen because of his exceptional legal and administrative experience. 23 years later, I am proud that I supported him that day. My over 5 years of experience as an assistant clerk has allowed me to work with countless judges. I've observed what it takes to be a great judge. Some of them were not great judges before your time. I say with confidence that Joe has all the qualities. He has the perfect demeanor. He's a great listener, a talented lawyer, most patient person I've met in this world, a respectful person, he's even-tempered, and he's empathetic to everybody that comes before the court. The majority of Joe's assignments have been to an extremely busy civil tracking session with its never-ending paperwork. These assignments were based on the needs of the court and strengthened the Norfolk team while utilizing his expertise on the civil rules and procedures. Counsel, judges, support staff, and the public have relied on Joe's expertise. Over the years, there have been numerous letters sent by counsel and citizens to thank us and expressing their appreciation. In one letter, I remember, and I'm quoting it, "Thank you for your assistance. It is always a pleasure meeting a professional like yourself who go above and beyond in assisting others in their dealings with the court." On a daily basis, I sit right out in the office, so I hear everything at the counter. So on a daily basis, I have observed Joe at the front counter, patiently explaining the necessary procedures to the self-represented individuals. These individuals, unfortunately, many of them have mental health issues. Joe's patience assures these individuals access to justice. On a daily basis, I have observed Joe with the same patients with our support staff, mentoring them, helping them. Personally, Joe and myself often end our day with a discussion, or a friendly debate, however you want to call it, and it's usually on a complex civil case. These lengthy discussions always occur after the staff has left. Typically, I surrender around 6-ish, and I leave. Not Joe. He's not a clock watcher, so he's probably still there. In Norfolk, we have relied on Joe's skills as a mediator. It's so important to realize this. He has been able to resolve numerous cases. On many occasions, judges have called me and said, "Can you spare Joe? Can you come up to my courtroom? Talk to the lawyers and clients. I'm about to impanel. Can you do it for me?" Of course, we let Joe go on, and usually they resolve. I remember one case, it was in the 5th day of trial, and Joe got to settle. I know the judge was very happy about that, but I also know the attorneys came down to express their gratitude. I think now that the district court's procedural amount is $50,000, and so many more cases will be brought at the district court level, I believe Joe's skills as a mediator will really be helpful. And that it would, and because let's face it, with the pause in jury trials, it could be a backlog of civil cases, and that would be very helpful to move them because he has the skills. It is important to acknowledge Joe has been assigned to a criminal session. I'm sure over the years, Joe would have preferred to be assigned to a criminal session and get away from all that paperwork, but he was needed on the civil side. We couldn't spare him. Several years ago, a situation came up though, when Joe was assigned to a busy criminal session for 2 years. I have to say that for Mr. Timothy and myself, when we need someone to cover a criminal session, we call Joe on the bullpen, because he can do it. In addition, Joe is one of 3 assistant clerks, along with Clerk Timothy, that's asked to reel people during the day. Joe is a real team player. Has always done anything asked of him. Along with his regular duties, he's always the first to roll up the sleeves if we have a project. And I want to give you a specific example. Several years ago, we lost our storage. We had to move, box and move thousands of cases. I had one person help me, Joe Hurley. In addition to doing everything else, he did that. And I know the project would not have been accomplished without his assistance. The past 2 years with the pandemic and the mandatory reduced staffing has meant that we get a little behind on our work. How do you think Joe handle that? By going to the office on the weekends and catching up. That's the type of work ethic he has. Now if I could just speak, and I don't want to speak too long, but I want to speak about Joe the person and all that I admire about him. First, and to me so very important, he's family. In 2003, Joe and his wife Heidi chose their son and adopted John and provided him a loving, supportive family. Joe's relationships with his parents and his siblings and his extended family are always a priority in his life. He is a man of faith. Lots of people have faith. He lives his faith, and you see it in his dealings with the public. Secondly, I admire how Joe selflessly gives back to his community. There's too many things for me to mention, but I'm going to highlight 2 of them, 2 examples. In the good weather, Joe volunteers as a coach at the Braintree Municipal Golf Course Special Needs Golf Program. He assists in the weekly clinics for children and adults. In the winter, on Saturday mornings, you find Joe lacing up the skates and going inside as he volunteers at the Boston Beer Cubs. This organization, if you don't know, is a special needs hockey program for children and young adults with developmental disabilities. Thirdly, Joe always wants to use time to make the practice of law better. He generously gives his time to bar associations. He is an active member of the Bar Association in Norfolk County, serves as a member of our Superior Court Bench Bar Committee, and this committee is very important. It brings judges and clerks together once a month to discuss issues and concerns. Once a year, the committee plans and sponsors an educational program. Joe's contributions in organizing those seminars have been critical to their success. Joe's also instrumental in our annual audit. He's the person who arranges it. With the Massachusetts Bar Association, Joe is an active member of the Judicial Administration Section and has served as its co-chair. Recently, we relied on Joe as he's been involved in committees on the implementation of Rule 73 and Rule 74, rules dealing with mental malpractice tribunals, and civil forfeitures. Lastly, I admire Joe's leadership abilities. In 2014, Joe served as the president of our Bar Association in Norfolk County after serving 4 years as an officer. And he also served as president of his local neighborhood association down in the family. The Superior Court Clerks Association, which I'm a proud member of, he's been so fortunate. He's been our secretary for years. In conclusion, although I could go on for hours, I know that that's not appropriate. So, Joe, I'm just saying, Joe is a very special person. whose professional career has provided the experience and knowledge to fulfill the important responsibilities of District Court Justice. I respectfully request that you look favorably on his nomination. I am confident that Joe will make you proud of your decision. He listens patiently. He is a scholar of the law. And what I did mention, he's a very thorough problem solver. His analytical skills, he sometimes drives me crazy. But that's a good thing, in a good way. He also, let's face it, he's a respectful man, and he shows compassion to everyone in the courthouse. And that's so needed. So thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, that was very well said. Thank you very much. Yeah, Councilman.
Thank you. I just want to say, I met you, you probably don't remember, but I met you in 1992 when I was a Superior Court law
You look familiar, but I'm terrible with names.
A short 30 years ago, but I've been with Jay Lynch for, well, 30 years too.
That's how I remembered you from Jay Lynch's office.
And everyone in our office like admires you. You're the epitome of what a clerk should be.
That's
I
right.
appreciate you coming here today. And I noticed that his wife was nodding, agreeing with you with things you were saying, so that's...
Oh, that's good.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Paul,
Good to see you.
Councilor Reckon.
The first court I appeared in as a lawyer 38 years ago was Norfolk Superior Court, back when I was in the DA's office in Norfolk. Most people don't know that. I get down there occasionally, not too often, but occasionally, and I have to say that over the last 38 years, every time I've shown up there, I've been treated exceptionally well by the clerk's office. Even when I was a young lawyer and nobody knew me from Adam, they were always very nice to me in there. You run a great court there, and it's a tribute to you and to the clerk of the court, Clerk Timilty. So I mean, it's you do a great job down there. And occasionally I get down there and bother Judge Connors when he was there, once in a while. But more when he was in district, I aggravated him. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words too.
Councilor Mann.
I love your enthusiasm.
Oh, well, I am. I'm very excited about this day for
Yeah,
Joe.
that's great. So how long have you known him?
23 years.
Wow.
I knew the real Joe Hurley first, his papa, and he's a real nice man.
Knew him first, yeah. So I like that, you know, he's there to help out and he has compassion. What other adjective would you give that he's going to bring to the bench?
What do you think about that? Everything compassion. I used a lot of the words I was thinking of him. I think that he has, and I probably didn't measure it, I think he has a clear understanding of some of the issues in our society, mental health issues in particular, and I think that will help. Substance abuse, I mean, many of the people we deal with, and on the civil side, we don't have a lawyer that's sort of doing, helping us along. So you have to be that person to really judge that. I do think too that whenever he hasn't known an answer to a question, he goes and finds it out. He doesn't pretend. So if there's something that, and I know he would stay up to date on all the law, but I know as a circuit judge, he'd have to really rely on the team that is at that district court to help him if there's appropriate programs on a criminal case and that type of thing. And I think he's a good leader to bring together like the probation, the DA, and the defense counsel and get a good solution for an individual who comes before the court after making a bad mistake in their lives.
Sounds great. We are a great witness to him. Thank
Okay,
you.
he's easy to agree with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Chair Jubinville. Appreciate the time.
Judge Connors, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jubinville. I'm just so very pleased to be here, be asked to testify at this confirmation hearing on the governor's nomination of Joseph Hurley to the district court. And I want to thank all the members of the council for giving me this opportunity. I've been retired since the end of 2020. I have served 16 years as a justice of the Superior Court, preceded by 9 years as a judge of the district court. And I had the honor twice to have been confirmed by this body to be ones to each of those positions. Now, during my time on the Superior Court, I worked very closely with Joe in his capacity as an assistant clerk. I had really good luck to be assigned to the civil session in 2006, and I was smart enough to stay there, clear for to stay there for 15 years to work with Joe. He is a model, he is wonderful. The positive thoughts I had about him were reinforced when 6 years before I retired, I was named Regional Administrative Justice. He has always been there for me. He's been extraordinarily helpful. Joe, I've noticed his ability to be able to handle jury matters and impanelment. He shows a tremendously calm and a steady demeanor, always very pleasant, and he absolutely put the jurors at ease at all time. Busy motionless in the afternoon, Joe was responsible for tending to those, and also to deal with the tidal wave of pleadings that come in on the civil side that have to be directed to a judge. Some of the cases we have in Norfolk, we have a lot. 2,000 cases at the time I was there, we split among the 3 sessions routinely, 2,000 pending cases. Joe showed that he was legally knowledgeable, he had great organizational skills, and a really important thing, excellent communication with counsel. Lawyers like Joe. Lawyers love dealing with Joe, and it was so vital for us to be able to carry out our work. But the thing that struck me most about Joe is he's a very good clerk in a very good clerk's office, as Walter Timothy and Mary Hickey have gone so admirably. But Joe has always gone above and beyond what's required of him. Just as Mary Hickey said, Joe is invariably one of the last people to leave the building. He's returning calls to counsel, he's setting up matters for the next day, and he's doing all the tasks that help our session run smoothly. He has an extraordinarily good work ethic. Additionally, it's very important, he's got a background in criminal law. He served as an assistant DA, he's kept up on the criminal law, and he is one of the clerks, the one clerk in the office who has kind of done a straddle, using his span of knowledge and experience in criminal to clerk both criminal and the customary civil section that he does. It's been an extraordinary value for the court. It's not the busy, it's a reasonably busy court, but it's not as huge a court as Middlesex, Suffolk, where there might be more clerks to be able to cover. Where one clerk can't be there for whatever reason, Joe is the person who's been able to be plugged in and has always done it willingly. Another aspect of his character and dedication has been his skill in mediating cases. We had the unfortunate circumstance of having 2 clerks who were trained as mediators, both retired at roughly the same time frame, leaving us with a big gap. Joe stepped right in. He volunteered. He's shown a tremendously deft ability as a mediator. He's always courteous, he's always helpful, he's always practical. And I think of critical importance for a nominee for the bench, he's always shown compassion and sensitivity for people who are brought in before the court and have their lives in front of the court and many important decisions about their life about to be made. Joe puts them at ease. He's resolved many cases for us. He saved lawyers time and effort. He saved the court during trials at times. But the really important thing is he saved the emotional wear and tear of litigants who otherwise would be facing trial. On the subject of service for the bar, which I know Mary has alluded to already, he's been active with both the MBA and the Norfolk Bar Association to the end of promoting justice. When I became Raj, I leaned on him as liaison to the Norfolk Bar. He did remarkable work assisting us in running our annual Law Day program in the main Sacramento Van Zandt courtroom. What I discovered when I got there was it required a lot of coordination. It's run by the Bar Association, but it's presided over by the judge and takes place in our facility. Very important that it be coordinated. Joe stepped up as a liaison. He organized meetings with the incoming president-elect who would run it. And very importantly, he saw to it that we had students come in. We had young kids from grammar school, from the Mead school system, and from the Randolph school system, who added so much as an educational event for the young people in the courthouse. Joe saw the logistics involved, making sure they had transportation to the courthouse. In other words, he stepped up to facilitate at every stage that I ever asked him to do anything. For all of these reasons, Joseph Hurley has earned the respect and the trust of the bar and all of the judges who sat at Norfolk. Everyone speaks highly of Joe. The only person I can think of, maybe who wouldn't, is Joe. He is the most extraordinarily self-effacing, modest person. Joe is somebody who doesn't toot his own horn. Joe is somebody who is a worker. He is compassionate. Having served myself as a judge of the district court, I know the position calls for legal skills, which Joe amply has, but it also calls for patience, for tact, for empathy, and for calmness in a really emotionally difficult and charged situation that often happens in the fast-paced district court. This nominee you have today personifies those traits to an extraordinary degree, and I respectfully urge the councilors to confirm his nomination of District Court bench.
Thank you, Judge, and I'm going to miss you on the bench. As many lawyers will. You were a great judge, and you were a judge that when you got assigned to your session, you knew you were going to have a fair trial, and you were a good judge, as opposed to some when you get sent, oh, Jesus, I got to go there. But you weren't that way, and I think I had probably one of your last jury trials before you retired. I think it was in the fall of 2019.
You go back a long way. I had one of my early district court cases with you.
And you practiced defense work for many years before you were on the bench, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll record you or something.
He learned all that. He learned all that in the district court.
Right. Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much. Okay, anybody else speaking? Hearing none. Anybody against the nominee? Anybody against the nominee? Hearing nothing?
Good afternoon, councilors, and thank you for the opportunity to interview with you today, and thank you for taking time to discuss my qualifications with me before today. The issues we discussed are important to me and will remain with me if I'm honored to be confirmed as a district court judge. Thank you, Councilor Jubinville, for sponsoring me and presiding over this hearing. I want to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for the extraordinary honor of nominating me to sit as the circuit judge of the district court. It comes with an enormous responsibility that I will carry with me every day, both on and off the bench. I want to thank the members of the Judicial Nominating Commission and the Joint Bar Committee for their consideration, due diligence, and support of my candidacy. A special thank you to the Executive Director of the JNC, Ron Green-Petrino, Deputy Director Emily Gauthier, Program Coordinator Judy Davin, and Governor Baker's Chief Legal Counsel, Attorney Robert Ross, for the courtesy and assistance throughout this process. Thank you, Governor's Counsel, Executive Assistant Valerie McCarthy, and Administrative Assistant Sonia Altamirano for the kind assistance with the Governor's Counsel part of this process. I want to thank my witnesses, First Assistant Clerk of Courts and Attorney Mary Kay Hickey, and Judge Thomas A. Connors for their kind and thoughtful testimony. I'm honored to have them here on this special day, testifying on my behalf, and I'm truly humbled by their comments and compliments. I'm honored also to have with me in support of my nomination my friend and the best boss anyone could ever hope to have, the Honorable Walter F. Timilty, the elected clerk of the Superior Court of Norfolk County. These are not just three people that I've had the pleasure of working with. They're an important part of my work family, and they are my mentors both professionally and personally. Their tireless work ethic, their dedication to public service and serving the bar, the compassion and empathy they exhibit every single day of everyone they encounter should serve as a model for the trial court and any public or private agency. I have to thank the late Nick Barbadoro, the elected clerk of the Norfolk Superior Court before Clerk Timilty, for appointing me to the position of assistant clerk 24 years ago this month. Until now, this has been my dream job, and I will be forever thankful to him for the opportunity to grow professionally and personally in a way that helped me here today. I must thank former Norfolk County District Attorney and Congressman Bill Delahunt for the opportunity to serve as an assistant district attorney in the district court. That appointment helped me find my calling in life, in public service, serving the public, the bar, and the judiciary to help foster the fair administration of justice in our courts. I want to thank all the fine judges that I've worked with and appeared before for their inspiration, advice, and support. Of course, I would have never gotten to this point in my life without the love, support, and guidance of my parents, Joe and Patricia Hurley, over the past 60 years. They provided a loving and supportive home and worked tirelessly to make sure my three sisters and I received a good education and a grounded moral foundation based on hard work, empathy, humility, and compassion. I'm happy that they can share this wonderful day with Heidi and I. Family is very important to me. I like to save the best for last, and the last person I want to thank today is the most important person in my life, the love of my life and my best friend and supporter, my wife Heidi. I'm beyond thankful for her love and support every day and throughout the process that brought me here today. I'm very proud of her. She attended Braintree Public Schools through high school, served 2 active duty tours in the United States Marine Corps, achieving the rank of sergeant. Heidi put herself through college and graduate school at the Massachusetts College of Art, worked in advertising until Holiday in Boston, and then followed in the footsteps of her father and taught art for 32 years, in all grades, including college. For the last 8 years, Heidi was the Director of Art for the town of Braintree Public Schools. Heidi impresses me every day with her positive attitude, artistic talent, vision, leadership skills, community involvement, and the outstanding mother she is to our son. As Mary mentioned, we're blessed with one son, John, who we love dearly and are very proud of. He graduated from Archbishop Williams High School and then attended Fairfield University, where he graduated with a degree in accounting and a minor in finance. He also obtained his master's degree in accounting from Fairfield, and while working at Deloitte, he earned his CPA designation. He just started his dream job in investment banking in New York in January. He shares our excitement about today and offered to attend, but I didn't want to miss a day. My great-grandparents on the Hurley side of the family emigrated from Ireland to the United States. They settled in New Bedford, where great-grandfather started a roofing company installing slate and copper roofing. I'm told that he and his family installed the original copper roof on the Taunton Courthouse. My father's parents, Joseph and Elizabeth, grew up and met in New Bedford. Elizabeth's father, Charles McDermott, was in the fishing business and was also a Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus in New Bedford. My mother's father, the Honorable Edwin F. Hannon, started his career as a meat cutter at the A&P supermarket and then went to law school. After law school, he practiced law at Hannon and Tracy before being appointed a federal referee in bankruptcy. My father graduated from Cornell University, but interrupted his time there to also serve in the Marines from 1956 to 1958, where he achieved the rank of corporal. After college, he followed his days as an insurance investor and attended Suffolk University Law School in the evening while raising his first 2 children with my mother. After law school, he served as an assistant district attorney in Norfolk County, and he opened his law practice in Braintree with his brother-in-law, Barry. My mother, Patricia, was born in Dorchester and graduated from John Dark High School in Dorchester and Newton College of the Sacred Heart. She taught elementary school for a time before staying home to raise her 4 children. In his address to BMC judges in 1995, Supreme Judicial Court Justice John Green said, "Trial judges are the last great generalists of the law. My 24 years as an assistant clerk in Norfolk Superior Court, plus my time as a practicing attorney and assistant district attorney, has given me a wealth of experience in all facets of criminal and civil litigation and has prepared me to serve as a district court judge. I've tried or clerked every type of case that is likely to come before me as a district court judge. I've argued or clerked well over 1,000 bail hearings. I'm aware of no bias or prejudices that will impair my ability to be fair and impartial, and I will continually self-assess to ensure that I make decisions that are free from any unconscious bias or prejudice. I'm aware of the struggle of addictions and mental health take on individuals and the toll of the community. I understand the need to encourage rehabilitation and protect the defendant's constitutional rights, and I'm also aware of the importance of protecting victims and the public from criminal activity. My goal is to be an excellent judge, as described by Chief Justice Hennessy in his book, Excellent Judges. When someone walks into a courtroom that I'm sitting, I want them to enter with confidence that they will be treated fairly, with dignity and respect, and leave knowing that they were heard fairly, with dignity and respect. I'm humbled and honored by my nomination to the District Court. It is a highlight of my life and the highlight of my professional career. I know that there's still much to learn, and there always will be in our profession. I commit to you and the people of this great Commonwealth that I will dedicate myself to doing my best to serve the court, the bar, and the community. I believe that Massachusetts has one of the best justice systems in the country, and I will work with the bar and the administration to maintain and improve the reputation of the district court. Thank you again, and I welcome your questions, comments, and suggestions.
Okay, before we start, I just want to indicate that we received letters from Judge Judy Fabricant, and Judge Scott Peterson called me and sent a nice letter on your behalf, and Mike Hulax and Honey Dale, and a nice request to working with you. And they'll be all part of the record for you. And the other thing we're doing for the first time, you're a beneficiary of it, so we're going to have a policy where counselors on the first round will ask questions of approximately 15 minutes. After that, the counselors go around once, and if the counselor has any more questions, they get another 5 minutes approximately. And the way we're going to do the rotation is whoever counselor is chairing the meeting, the person on their right would be the first call, and we'd go around that way. So at the end of a period of time, everybody will get just about the same first call and last call in our rotation. Okay?
You're going left.
Huh?
So you're going to the left.
No, right.
All right.
If you go right, you
I was
don't go
kidding.
wrong.
It was a holiday. I always ask the nominees, did you any getting here? You know, and so you were rejected in the Catholic administration, but then you put it in your application before this governor and you were rejected. The JNC approved. Tell me what happened in that process.
The JNC,
Yeah.
they had a hearing, you want to help me there? There were 10 or 11 interviews on the JNC.
So you got before the governor to talk to him and
No, I didn't.
you didn't get that far?
No.
Okay.
In the first process or the second?
Yeah, no, well, thank you for reapplying, because that does happen a lot of times, you know. I'm glad this counselor had mentioned about the letter from Judge Fabrican. I never saw a letter, so, I don't know, so glowing, and I know it's 2 pages and the council would want me to read it, but the things that she has said about you is, you know, intellect, knowledge, dedication, and your regular says all participants, judges, navigating particularly challenging rules and procedures. You know, she just couldn't say enough about you. And overall, she said you're well qualified to serve. And, you know, she told all about your background from malpractice law to, you know, to vehicle accidents. So, okay, so you went before now this is what I want to ask you. There's an 18-month time when you file this and when you're appointed. Now, I'm a little puzzled because it says 2019. So how does that happen? Do they reapply, or how do they do that?
This one was 2019. Because of COVID, there was an extension.
Yeah,
So that's how.
I see. Okay, because I was going to say that's 2019, we're 2022 now.
Correct.
Okay, that's good.
It was, my son's was Christmas time.
I see. Well, okay, you've certainly had a lot of experience that I look for, and I like the age in your life experience. I mean, you've been involved in special needs golf tournament with, you know, with special needs. That means a lot. That shows empathy and compassion that I look for. So, tell me, you've been involved with drug addiction. Tell me what cases and what you've done.
So when I was, most of that was done when I was an assistant district attorney, and we had a defendant that I was prosecuting. I was, even as an assistant district attorney, my goal was my job as a prosecutor, on my own conscience and under the policies of the office, it was to try and help people. So if someone was being prosecuted for something and they had a substance abuse problem, I would inquire of their attorney if there were any programs that they thought would be helpful to assist the defendant in being rehabilitated, and reach out to probation as well, find out what programs are available, so that I can recommend a sentence that would have the goal of getting this person back to be a productive member of society.
Well, you know, you served in so many capacities, and now tell me, as assistant district attorney, assistant clerk, and private practice, tell me how each of those helps to qualify you to be on the bench.
Sure.
What is that brought to you to bring?
The assistant district attorney, especially with the Delahunt office, but that would be my nature anyhow, gave me a chance to prosecute cases, but also to evaluate the value of the case as far as a sentence and figuring out an appropriate sentence, but also to figure out a helpful sentence. So I learned how to try to help someone who is suffering substance abuse or mental health abuse or even anger management issues. It's not just about punishment. To me, it's really about rehabilitation, so that person comes out of this cycle and back to become a productive member of society. In private practice, has a lot of exposure to real estate, and that would help me, it's helped me as a clerk, in settling cases that involve real estate, and will continue to help as a judge with cases involving real estate. And the nature of the work that I do in real estate, a lot of it involves titles and very detail-oriented legal issues. And
But in addition to those positions, you've been a mediator.
through
We don't
that-
always hear about that. Tell us what the most significant mediation that you had that you remember.
The most significant one was actually one that Mayor Hickey referenced. It was Bidlos, the name of one of the parties was the Bidlos Investments. And it was on day 6 of the trial. It was supposed to only last 5 days, and probably had another 7 days to go. The two parties absolutely hated each other. They had bought adjoining condo units, condominium units in a single building, so it wasn't part of the big complex. And one was interfering with the other one's right to sell, and it was a mess. They hated each other. The attorneys were both in private practice. The length of the trial was real status impact with practice. The judge called down and asked if I would be willing to sit down with the attorneys, and they had said, he had asked the attorneys if Joe Hurley will sit with you, would you meet with him? And both attorneys knew their reputation. They said, absolutely. We spent several hours that afternoon trying to get, I met with them together, and then met with them separately so that I could have an understanding of what each party's interest was. And because of my real estate background and understanding of how condominiums worked, I was able to get these two people to understand that they could not go forward owning a property together. One had to buy the other out. And that's how, eventually, it's a long story, it went on for several days. The judge actually went away on vacation. When he came back, we were trying to wrap it up. So,
Well, we don't see a lot of coming before us with mediation experience, so I think that just adds it. And how about you being chosen, the only assistant with the late Judge Gann?
that was actually, that was what Chief Justice fabricated on the medical malpractice. Is that the question you're asking about?
Yeah.
When I was on that panel. And that, I used to schedule the medical malpractice cases at the Norfolk Superior Court for hearings. And I was very familiar with the law on that in the statute. And having done that and knowing what the responsibilities of the Mass Medical Society were or should have been, I was able to provide some value assistance to that and achieve through that.
When we met, we talked about the case you had. I don't know how often it happens, but that trial for rape and kidnapping, and he ends up stabbing his attorney. Want to tell us
Yeah,
about
that was an awful case. We're handling one of the most dangerous defendants to ever come through the state. The gentleman's name was Shea Sosa. He's still at MCIC at Junction. We had a security team there to keep everybody safe, including him, during it. And for the first trial, because of the case law the way it is, you couldn't handcuff him, and he snuck a shank in during a panel that did stab his attorney.
But, you know, your experience, and how many, I've read hundreds of these applications, but also you've had pre-trial conferences.
Yes.
And you know, how do you think that adds to your ability? What have you learned, and can you tell us about
Sure, that actually is a lot. Thank you for bringing that up. Until a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, assistant clerks used to do all of the pre-trial conferences on the civil cases. So I did thousands of pre-trial conferences. I would meet with the attorneys in one of the jury rooms to discuss their cases, how they were, where they stood with discovery, was there outstanding discovery, were they ready for trial, had there been a demand made, were they interested in mediation. We would have a very frank conversation, and a lot of the times through those conversations, maybe there wasn't a demand made. I would tell the parties, well, you have to make a demand within 10 days or 20 days, not how much time they needed. I'm not an arm twister, so I'm always very courteous to the attorneys. You need, how much time do you need? You need to have me make a demand. So whatever they needed, give them that time, and that would move the case forward a lot of times.
I'm very impressed with the broad spectrum of what you have been involved in. Massachusetts Wage Act. I haven't seen that. What was it, a breach of, was it a breach of contract?
I'm not sure which piece you're talking about.
That was Amy Connors versus Jared Hatch,
Oh,
in the
yes.
Norfolk Superior Court.
She was alleging that she was employed by Mr. Hatch as an assistant in his office, and that she had brought certain business to the company. He denied that she was ever an employee. She was entitled to certain other rights. And that case went to trial, and the jury determined that she wasn't an employee, but she had done work for him, and gave her what they call quantum merit, which was basically the value of the work that she did for him.
So how have you been getting through the pandemic, doing your job? Have you been in court or in Zoom? What is
We've
it?
been doing a lot of Zoom hearings, the trial court. Shortly after the pandemic started, to give the trial court credit, they geared up quickly. They got us laptops so that we could communicate with attorneys from home, so we could do scheduling, work with cases that were electronically filed from home, and keep in contact with attorneys. So between going into the office and doing that was helpful. And then, yes, we've done a lot of hearings by Zoom. We did 2 trials by Zoom, but many hearings by Zoom, preliminary injunctions, criminal hearings, probation matters, conferences, discovery hearings.
You know, out of all cases that concerns me, the 209As, because they've even done it on the phone, some of the courts, and I'm thinking, it's hard enough to judge whether this person is being truthful. And you don't see their body language, you don't look at their eyes, you don't see them move. That's a big concern of mine, that I wonder how some of them, might have been, didn't go the right way, because it's so hard to know,
I agree with you, and I think as soon as they were able to get back to in-person hearings, they did that for that exact reason, because those are very difficult hearings, and you should be able to assess the parties at that. I think looking at the coronavirus, it was such an emergency at that initial time.
So in all your positions, is there one one case that stands out that you was most rewarding to your involvement?
The most rewarding case came out of when I was an assistant district attorney. 3 years after I left the office, I was coming home one night. It was after work, dark in the middle of the winter, and stopped for gas. And I'm walking into the payphone, and the young man comes up to me and says, "Hey, are you an assistant DA?" And I wasn't sure where he was going with that. I said, "I'm actually not in the office anymore." And he said, "I just want to thank you. You gave me a break, and it really turned my life around. I've got a job, I've got a girlfriend, and I really straightened myself out. And it was because you gave me a break that day."
Well, I'm sorry that you weren't appointed last time. You certainly were qualified. I'm glad you made it this time. But all of the positions that you have worked in advising attorneys and all of the investigations you've done, pre-trials and all of them, I'm very pleased. So thank you for reapplying. Sometimes people go away and they don't. And so what time was the charm for you? So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Devaney. Councilor Einell.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of questions. Let's assume you're confirmed by the body, and now you have a trial, and obviously you're presiding, and somebody, I don't know, a witness, the defense attorney, somebody says, I don't feel comfortable. I know we're getting over this pandemic, but, I'm not vaccinated. I just don't feel comfortable. But having said that, Judge, they say to you, but I don't want to do the trial over Zoom. I want to be able to look at the witnesses. So I'm asking for a continuance because of, the pandemic, the situation. Your answer to that?
under those facts. And the pandemic has affected people differently, many people differently. Some people have immunity issues and they can't get the COVID vaccines. Some people are opposed to getting vaccines, they don't trust them. In light of what we've gone through over the last couple of years, my inclination would be to keep that continuous.
It's good to hear. Let's assume now you've been appointed to the circuit court, so even if you're appointed to a certain court, you don't necessarily go to that court anyway. But let's assume you go to a court and they call the case and the prior judge issued an order of no further continuances. And now someone comes before you and says, hey, Judge, look, again, you're convinced it's a legitimate concern. It's not like it's a judge shopping issue. What would you do under that situation?
So I think it's incumbent on every judge to be able to address the case that's before him under the circumstances that are before him or her. And so under the situation that you've just outlined, I would be inclined to give a continuance.
Because I remember I asked someone who was sitting in that same seat within the last year. And I said, what do you do in a situation like this? Someone comes before you and says, oh, you know, I know this has been on for the 4th time, but I just got surprised. My 25th wedding anniversary. Okay? This is a true story. 25th wedding anniversary. And I forget if it was my husband or wife, what the situation was, just surprised me for a week to Bermuda. And so I'm going to have to ask for a continuance. And the nominee says, that's not a good enough reason. And, you know, yeah, it was either your husband or wife says, they should know your schedule. I mean, I don't tell my wife my schedule. I'm sure who tells, you know, it's unusual. So I think then there was a break, and I think the nominee, you know, got her senses together, his senses, and changed their mind. But it's a true story. I assume you'd grant the continuance under my situation.
Yeah. As a clerk, I'm the one who gets the phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Now, I don't have any further questions. It was good to see Judge Connors. What a nice guy he is. I'm sure he was a great judge, fair, but I remember him from way back when. He's a decent human being. So it's good that he's in your corner. And the first assistant clerk, Mary Hickey, you were very eloquent in your remarks about Mr. Hurley. So when your name comes before the council next week, I'll be more than happy to support you. Thank you.
Councilor Duff, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a wonderful talk with you, and I have to say you were very diligent and persistent in trying to reach me, because I've been like a whirling dervish in the last 2 weeks, so I appreciate that. I think it actually speaks very highly to your character and how very seriously you take this opportunity in application. I really don't have very many questions for you. You know, you're somebody, after not just, you know, vetting you and investigating you, you just have a wonderful reputation as a man and a person in the courts. And that is something that we cannot quantify on a piece of paper. And I think, you know, you and I spoke a lot about why shift down to the district court from where you've been, and you've just, I think that you've put a lot of thought into all of this, and I appreciate it. We talked about a couple of the challenges in the courts. We talked about some of my main concerns. I, of course, admire the work you do with special people. I admire the fact that you said you put your hockey skates back on after 30 years. Did you skate at St. Mike's? Did you?
No, I stopped skating in 8th grade.
Oh, wow. I had an uncle who played hockey for St. Mike's.
Save the skates, though.
Yeah, you saved the skates. That's great. Just in case. So, if you may, and I don't want to put you on the spot, and if you're not comfortable, don't answer, because I don't like to trick people or give you gotcha questions, but Do you have a life experience that you would be willing or you could think of sharing that you think has helped form you to make you, that will help make you a compassionate or good judge or a different type of judge?
I don't know that it's one life experience.
Okay.
I really think it's my whole experience.
Mhm.
With the judges I've worked with, the compassion I've seen in so many cases, in serious criminal cases at the Superior Court. I mean, the judges really worked hard to tailor a sentence that was not just punitive, that would, hopefully we could go and take this person and help them become good members of society.
No, and thank you for saying that, because I think, you know, the idea is to not put people in jail, right? You know, we don't want bad people to be out there,
Right.
but we're trying to fix the problem. We're not just trying to throw them in a cell and throw away the key. That's not the idea.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the victims, who we need to be cognizant of. It doesn't help them. It doesn't help society. So thank you for that. That was, I think, there's no wrong answer. It's a great answer. Also, thank you to your wife for your service to our country. My dad was 4th Division. But also, thank you for being an artist, something we need more now than ever. And that's it. All my questions. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Real quick, I apologize for not getting back to you last week. We had a hectic vacation. Everyone came. We all met in Florida. My son was a lawyer in Germany, came, so it was really hectic.
We spoke.
What's that?
We did speak.
I know, I didn't have a long time to talk to you, for the same. I know we spoke. And he got through to me like twice. Make sure you vote for, Hurley. He's a great guy, blah, blah, blah. So again, big supporter of yours.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
As you know, I get down to the Norfolk Superior Court on occasion. I've seen you there. All the assistant clerks and you yourself have been just great to me there. Everybody in the clerk's office. I said that earlier. I'm saying it again. You've been terrific in terms of the way you interact with people, the way you handle the lawyers. Always helpful, always friendly. Even when we're jammed up to address Council Ionella's issue with continuances and stuff, you're always there helping people with problems like that. You come from a great family. My friend Mark Donovan from Linfield, you were at his house. I just missed you there apparently when I went by there. And he said that you were a terrific guy as well, so that means a lot. I've gotten a lot of calls from I'm not going to go through the whole list, from all over the place. Councilor Jubinville's a huge fan as well. I think if I voted against you, I'd get in a fist fight with him. So I'll be voting for you next week.
You'd lose, Terry, so.
I don't know, I can carry the weight part of it. I'm in a different weight class than him.
I'm going to suspend Lieutenant Governor's coming in for our General Assembly, so you're welcome to stay or go outside, whatever you want to do, you can stay.
We'll be a few minutes.
It's going to be a couple minutes.
Okay.
Oh, a few minutes?
That's all right. Just want me to sit down?
Yes. What?
I guess it's coming up.
Is LG here?
Yep.
LG in the house.
LG2
LG Junior?
That is true. All right, call the assembly to order, and I recognize Councilor Jubinville for our motion, for our prayer pledge today.
Thank you. I'd ask that we say a prayer for all of the people in Ukraine who are getting shelled by the Russian army and having to leave their homes, probably will never come back to their country and probably won't have a home to come back to. The deaths will be tremendous, and all because of one man's arrogance and greed, one man causing all that. So let's pray that that doesn't spiral out of control so we end up in World War III.
Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I recognize Councilor Ferreira for a motion to report advice and consent of the financial warrant.
So moved, Governor.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I recognize Councilor Duff for a motion to record advice and consent for the pending list of notaries, public, and justices of the peace.
So move, Governor.
Second motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I recognize Councilor Devaney for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Karen M. Bell to the position of Associate Justice of the Superior Court.
I'm very honored, wonderful appointment, well qualified, and we need more people coming in. And I'm sorry that we had to wait 3 weeks, because we did have a quorum last week, but we're here now, so I'm glad that we're voting today. Well deserved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We may begin the roll call.
Council DePaulo,
No.
Council Hurley,
Yes.
Council Ferrera,
Yes.
Council Jubinville,
Yes.
Council Devaney,
Yes.
Council Iannella,
Yes.
Council Duff,
Yes.
Council Kennedy,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I recognize Councilor Hurley for a motion to record advice and consent for the appointment of Tina W. Cavaro to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court.
Thank you very much. I make that motion with a great deal of satisfaction. I got a lot of calls on her nomination, and I didn't know her as a friend, I didn't know her socially, but I did see her in action when I was on the district court. She's a superstar. She's going to be a great addition to the district court in our region, and we need really good people because we are drowning in Springfield District Court. So it's going to be good, and she will be there almost on a daily basis. So it's great, and I'm just really pleased with her nomination.
Second.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second.
Second, and I agree with everything that the council said.
Okay, very good. All right, we may begin the roll call.
Council Hurley,
Yes.
Council Ferrera,
Yes.
Council Jubinville,
Yes.
Council Devaney,
Yes.
Council Iannella,
Yes.
Council Duff,
Yes.
Council Kennedy,
Yes.
Council DePaulo,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have a nomination that needs to be scheduled, and that's Andrew M. D'Angelo to the position of Associate Justice of the Appeals Court.
Could we put that down for the 30th?
Yes, March 30th it is,
What time, Bob?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Anybody recommend?
Yes, Councilor Jubinville?
I'd like to make a motion, there's two parts to the motion.
Excuse me, we have another appointment. It's in my district. Brennan? Is Brennan?
It's been scheduled.
It's already scheduled.
It's already scheduled.
That's scheduled, and that's all in your calendars.
Do you want to know when we're having the hearing?
You already scheduled it.
Huh?
You already scheduled it.
You already know the 23rd?
You already scheduled it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got an email.
Okay. So March 23rd and March 30th. Councilor Jubinville?
Yeah, so I'm making a motion, two parts to it. The first part is that each counselor, when they're called, will have 15 minutes of questioning of the nominee. And if they need more at the second round, they can take another 5 minutes. And the reason I'm doing it is because, first of all, we're going to be pretty busy this year. Usually the last year of a governor, there's a lot of activity in the council, like today's our third hearing. So we want to streamline it a little bit and be able to take care of the things that we have to take care of. Secondly, each counselor gets to vet their nominee the way they see fit. They meet with them, they call them, they do their own due diligence. So most of the time, counselors come here and they pretty much know how they're going to vote. Yes, on occasion, something comes out of the nominee that causes some counselors to change their thinking. But that's sort of a rarity, I believe, since in my opinion anyway. So I think that would kind of streamline our council. And the other part of the motion is that whatever counselor is chairing the meeting, then they will call on the person on their right where they sit in the chamber. So like today, I'm the chair, so I call on Councilor Devaney. If it's Councilor Kennedy, he'll start off with Councilor DePaulo. So over a period of time, everybody will get a chance at being called first, and everybody will get a chance at being called last. So we'll all be about equal at the end of it all. So That's my motion, and I think it would help the council out, and we'll give it a try, and if it doesn't work out, we'll change it.
Second the motion.
If there's a motion and a second discussion, yes, Councilor Manning?
I'll yield to Councilor Duff if she has a comment.
I just seconded the motion.
So if there's a motion and a second.
Okay, I respectfully disagree with my colleague about the 15-minute. One size does not fit all. Today, I didn't need 15 minutes for either of the Industrial Action Board, and sometimes you need added questions. There might be something questionable about the nominee that should be discussed, or whatever it is. So whether, I don't think you should, so then you would be able to bring that up if you had that 15-minute from the question to the answering. So I really think that it isn't acceptable. I really don't. I think that it depends on the questions that you need to be asked. So it might be 10 minutes, might be 20, might be 2. But I just can't agree with that we're being held. There might be a council that really wants to ask some really good questions, and the nominee might be a little slower in answering. There's your 15 minutes, you know, so I'm hoping that we will not pass that, and I'm being respectful and doing that.
Okay, there's a, yes. Councilor
Respectfully, the council did talk about a second round, so if you wanted to do something up, you could. And I'm thinking within, 15, 20 minutes, you can fire out 10, 15 questions and get answers. So I'm in favor. I just wanted to set the clarification that there would be a second round if you needed it.
5 minutes.
If I may.
All right, let's go around and then come back to you, Councilor Kennedy.
I just want to point out that 15 minutes a person, that's 2 hours worth of hearing time, plus the nominee statement and the witness time. So it's about a 2.5-hour hearing. Very few of them go beyond that in any event.
Good.
I made a similar motion years ago. It was shot down. I haven't changed my mind. I'm going to support it.
No,
I move the question.
thank you.
Roll call vote.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, and then begin the roll call.
Council Ferrera?
Yes.
Council Jubinville?
Yes.
Council Viviani?
No.
Council Heinella?
Yes.
Council Duff?
Yes.
Council Kennedy?
Yes.
Council DePaula?
Yes.
Council Hurley?
Yes.
The second vote. Great, that should conclude our business today.
Thank you.
My motion is to have only one hearing, which was the protocol that was established by the Governor's Council and past Governor's Councils. And I say that, Lieutenant Governor, in respect to the nominee. So we're not looking at the clock and get them through, herd them through, gotta get the next one in, and then have you come in. It worked very well in the past, and I think that we should really go back to that. And it's not a lot to ask for the council to come in one day to have one hearing. And so I hope that you will consider. That was the protocol for years, for decades, and I'm just asking, it was a good policy, and I'm just asking if we have a vote on that. I make the motion.
Okay, so in the form of a motion made by Councilor Devani. Is there a second? There's no second.
We had 3 today.
That is something you can schedule, and you've had a practice of doing that among yourselves, and perhaps that will continue and take into consideration your recommendations.
Okay, I have a question, a point of information. I came in today, and I was shocked, and I was upset to learn that beginning today, no more YouTube, it was eliminated, and the public is not hearing this assembly, is not hearing our nominee, and so this will be going further, that no other future council hearings will be out to the public or for YouTube. And I was very upset to think that it's not, because when I first was elected, I asked if we could have a camera and record our hearings for the public. Because the public doesn't know the workings of the Governor's Council, they don't know. And so I was told, with the technology in those days, we didn't have the room, didn't have a budget, and you'd have to hire people, so it was not feasible. Now we have the technology, it was in that little corner right there, and it worked very well. And hundreds of people have responded that they now know. I mean, it's the right to know who the governor is appointing. And they get to see that person and hear that person. And every person that we vote on has a direct effect on the people we represent. The judges, the magistrates, parole board, industrial action board, appellate task board. It affects people out there. And now they know who is being represented, who is being sent up by the governor. They hear and see the person, and then at the assembly, like today, they will hear the vote of the council. Now, we have put a light on the council. After all these years, we shouldn't be putting the public in the dark again and not knowing. It's not fair. It's not fair to anyone. So I don't understand. It was done serial calling on the phone. All the councils were called, and they were all in favor of eliminating the public access. And we are a public body. We've taken an oath of office. We don't vote on the phone. We don't vote in private. Yet I came in, and it's all done. We're not going to hear this nominee. He's not going to have the privilege that we had last week and last year of people. So I'm saying that why are we doing this? What is the positive action? Where is the open government? So I'm just saying, I didn't vote. I don't vote only here. This is where we're supposed to vote. And I don't understand how anyone has the authority to eliminate that. I didn't know, and I'm elected governance council, I didn't know. And if I was in on that phone call, I would have said no. And it isn't right. It isn't right, and yet it was done. How is it done? How do we eliminate public access today without coming to the public, without having a discussion? This isn't the way open government works. So I'm trying to be respectful, and I'm not going against the council, but I'm just saying, I find no joy in it, but, you know, we open the process. We put light on the council, and now we're saying no more public access. I have served 22 years. Lieutenant Governor, I was only absent once when my husband died in January 2001. I'm telling you firsthand, over 22 years, traditionally we've had 2 people from the public coming to our hearings. I hear from hundreds of people from all these districts, and they're so pleased to be included. This is open government. So I'm just saying, please, let's bring back open government. We've got someone right here that does it. It's in-house, doesn't cost us a dime.
Yes,
So
it does.
please, council, let's think of the people that we're representing, okay? It's not about us.
I would just note that just recently the State House was reopened, and the public has access to all parts of the building, including
Yeah.
the governor's council
Then how
chamber.
is that stopped?
And like before the pandemic and before the State House was closed, the public is made aware of these proceedings, which are open to the public.
Just briefly.
Councilor Jubinville?
I was in on the discussion. It wasn't a vote, it was a consensus. I called my sister Thursday, left a message on her cell phone. That was the day I talked to some councilors. I talked to them on Friday and then Saturday. And I called my sister again on Monday, left a message on her phone. She didn't call back, so I called Valerie and said, if you see Marilyn with State House, please have her give me a
Was that
call.
a letter?
And we spoke on Tuesday, So, you know, like you said, this started because of the pandemic. The pandemic's over. The State House is open where it wasn't before. And it takes staff to run this. We got 3 people down at the clerk, at the Governor's Council office. They're loaded with work. They're going to be loaded with more work when it comes down to shoot. So I think the public has access. It's being recorded right now. And our counselor hearings have always been recorded.
Yeah.
Tapes captured.
Yeah,
People that might
they're
have seen
online.
them. So that's my piece of it.
All right, if there's no more business, that concludes our assembly today. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
But how was that stopped without any public knowledge that we
Well,
all have?
Marilyn.
you're gonna resume?
How was the authority to do that? I'm sorry, yeah. It stopped today with you.
Thank you for,
Joe, you're good.
By a phone call.
Where's Paul?
Right, go.
Counselor Hurley.
Okay.
Not good, but
First
thank
of
you
all,
very
for
much.
the record, Joseph Hurley and I are not related, at least to the 8th degree.
We're at one time in Ireland.
Oh, that's, well, what I'm saying is, his folks went down this way, and my grandparents went to Springfield. So, what counties were they from in Ireland?
Galway was one, and Cork was the other.
Uh-oh. My grandfather was from Cork. My grandmother was from Kerry. But even so, as it stands, we're not currently related. Just a couple of questions. We had a good conversation. And so my curiosity, who was the Hannon and who was the Hurley?
My mother's a hand,
Okay,
so it's her brothers were in practicing with my father.
with your father.
Yeah.
What about your Uncle Patrick?
So Uncle Pat was in there back when he was an assistant clerk, actually in the Superior Court. Like the assistant DAs, you could practice and serve as an assistant clerk. So he was in with my father at that time. And then when they changed it to making the clerk position and the DA position full-time, my father left and stayed in private practice. And Judge Hurley stayed as an assistant clerk.
And then became a judge.
Yes.
Okay. I got a call from Sharon Donatelli, who worked with you,
Yes.
and was made a Superior Court judge a few years back. Because of the fact that I was a judge, I was able...
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, Counselor, what is this for?
Sorry about that, Joe.
Sorry. In any event, I made calls, I checked you out, and A-rated. So I look forward to voting for you. And also to your witness, Mary. Is your middle name Elizabeth?
No, it's Catherine.
Oh, okay. It's either, we were all either Mary Elizabeth or Mary Catherine. But it was nice to see somebody who's been working in the court system as long as you have, who's got such a super attitude. So it's nice to see you. Thank you. So I'll be voting for you next week.
Thank you, Counsel.
All right?
Counselor DePaula.
Thank you, Councilor Jubinville. Let me take a seat. Attorney Hurley, a lot of the issues that concern me generally have been raised today, so I won't reiterate them. But one that I did want to ask you about is, in exercising your discretion, first of all, I've heard a lot about the intent to seek rehabilitation when appropriate, when we know it'll work and reduce recidivism. How does age and brain development factor into your thoughts in terms of becoming a district court judge and how that would impact your discretion?
Sure. I'm familiar with some of the studies that have shown now that the emerging adult brain development from say 18 to 24 or 26 is significantly delayed. Number one, that would lead to them making poor choices or impulsive choices in life that could end up getting the court involved. And the second part of that is that the young adult is still very impressionable at that age. They're not set into their life traits or characteristics. So if you can get to them then into a program and help them, then that can help them become productive members of society and maintain good self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. And, my perspective on this is in the same way that addiction can control behavior, essentially, right? The relative lack or the not fully developed prefrontal cortex and the executive functioning, I mean, this can be something beyond someone's control in some cases. And I heard the story of, I believe it was a young man who you had been the prosecutor for, and he encountered you years later, I believe?
Yeah, 3 years later.
Yeah, and that he had a positive experience, right? Most young people, when they go to jail, do not have a positive experience, right? And as you say, they're so impressionable that's where the revolving door comes in, right? Have you ever visited a jail?
I have. Actually, I went with retired Judge Cratsley when he was sitting in Superior Court, brought a class up to the Norfolk County House of Correction, asked if I wanted to go on that, and I absolutely accepted it because I've never been in a jail, fortunately.
Yeah.
It was a good experience.
I think it's important for judges to visit jails because that's where people are going, right? What was your impression of it when you visited?
I was impressed with how clean it was. It was spit shine, clean, and
Yeah.
it wasn't new then at all.
Right. It wasn't an updated building, obviously, but it's clean, well maintained for what it
It was
is.
built in the 80s or 70s, and I can't remember. It's the one in the middle of the highway.
I haven't been to that one, so I'm thinking of the ones I've been to, which are well older than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine they are.
Yeah.
So it was clean. They were very well organized. They were overcrowded at the time, so they
Yeah.
had beds in what used to be a gym area or a cafeteria area.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought that they did a good job.
I continue to be concerned about the use of solitary confinement in this state. I think it's misused and overused, and it's used, there's excuses that are created in order to implement it that I think aren't just. And I think we have folks, I've spoken to a couple actually, and in fact one of them we recently voted to commute. The solitary confinement messes with mental health predictably, but it certainly exacerbates any underlying problems that are there. And I guess I don't have a question about that, but I appreciate your perspective on some of these issues, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have any other questions? Councilor Devaney, you have any other questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I spent 4 hours with this nominee. I'm just sorry that the public didn't hear him because
Okay,
he
we
got
know.
shot.
Okay,
He
thank you.
got
Not
shot
any questions. Thank you.
a week late because they changed it.
Thank you. So, I don't have any questions either. I've known you a long time, and what everybody said about you here today, I would reiterate. You are a wonderful person. You treat everybody so kindly in that courthouse. You have a lot of compassion and understanding about people's positions and what they get themselves into. You also come from lawyers in your family. Your father is a great lawyer. Is he still practicing?
He's not. No.
Okay.
He's gone in-house with a client.
Yeah, and your Uncle Pat on the bench was just a wonderful judge. And when he had to send somebody to jail, it was a father. But he would have to do it now, and then he will have to too sometimes. So you've done a great job at the clerk's office, and I agree with whoever said it, but Norfolk there's no better clerk's office, I'll tell you that. I'm Walton, I go to Walton, Pittsfield, and everywhere. And you guys are really something. So that's it. The hearing's over. We will be voting on you 2 weeks from today, I believe.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So.